Hi, I'm Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and today in this video I'll be showing you how to make the Celtic Soap Sack. There are two versions of this project. They are both rated easy, but this first version is the simplest because you make the Celtic knot and then applique it on top of a basic bag. For the second version, you'll do the same exact thing, make the Celtic knot, but then we work stitches into the edge of the knot and build out from there to create the soap sack. And we even add some edging up on top with a detail where you can add a drawstring closure. So I encourage you to keep watching so you can learn how to make these cords, weave the Celtic knot, and then make each version of this project. You'll find the free written pattern of this project on my blog at celticknotcrochet.com. If you like this project, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and click to subscribe. You'll see that there are a lot of Celtic Knot Crochet videos here on my YouTube channel. I decided to make this project after I met Stacy. Stacy is the founder of SAC, Supporting a Community with Kindness. It is a special organization that encourages people to knit and crochet soap sacks and then donate them to their local communities for underprivileged people or underserved. I was inspired by Stacy's mission and her enthusiasm for her project and told her that I would create a Celtic knot version that could be used for volunteers to make. So if you'd like to make this project, you can head over to her website, SAC, and find more information about how you can put it to good use in your community. Let's get started. Here are the supplies you'll need for the Celtic Soap Sack. I used 3 different colors of cotton yarn, and I decided to use I Love This Cotton from Hobby Lobby, but you could use a wide variety of dishcloth cotton for this project. For my colors, I used Forest for the dark green, and I used what's called bright green for the pretty Kelly green color, and then I used Ivory for the background color. It's best when you're making your Celtic knot to use 2 contrasting colors because it really helps the knot design pop out. But you could always go back to the center color if you'd like, if you don't want to use 3 colors. Then you're going to need an H or 5mm crochet hook. You'll need 4 stitch markers, of course your regular scissors, and a yarn needle. There are a few other supplies you'll need to help you weave this Celtic knot, and we'll go over those when we get to it. And if you'd like, you can skip ahead by looking in the description below and pick the part of the project that you need help with and just click on that and it'll take you right there. First step is that you'll want to put your slip knot on your hook, and I'm picking the bright green color because I'm going to be making the center part of the cords. So I'm going to chain 40. And your chain should be approximately 10 inches long, 10 or 11. Okay, and now we're going to start working into the chain. This is the front of the chain, this is the back of the chain with all the bumps, and this is the side that we're going to work into. So we're going to skip this first chain right here, the one closest to the hook, and we're going to work in this one, but we're not going to work into the front. We're going to turn it over and we're going to work into that back bar, back bump, and we're going to do that all the way down the chain. And this creates a really pretty cord that has the same look on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to insert my hook under that back bar, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm going to work 2 more single crochets in the next 2. 1 and then 2. So I have 3 single crochets so far. Now I'm going to create the first point in my cord. So I'm going to put a single crochet in the next stitch, chain 2, and then single crochet in that same stitch. And this is going to create a nice little point. And I'm going to mark that chain 2 space with my stitch marker so it's really easy to find on my next round. Now I'm going to continue working across the chain, and I'm going to single crochet in the next 21 chains. So just truck along here, 1, 2, and so on. Here you can see the 21 single crochets. And now I'm going to make another point. Single crochet, chain 2, and then single crochet into that same stitch that I already worked into. By cramming all that in, it gives me that nice shape. I'm going to mark that chain 2 space with the stitch marker. So I have just a little bit left to go. I'm going to single crochet in the next 7. And now I'm going to work a decrease. So I'll zoom in a little bit closer here. This is called a single crochet 2 together. And you're going to put your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 2 loops on your hook. Now I'm going to go into the stitch after that, insert my hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. Now this is going to help the cord bend ever so slightly in this direction, heading towards the right. And now I'm going to single crochet in the last 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's what we've just completed. The center part of our first cord. And you'll see that there are 2 points on this cord marked with the stitch markers. Now you're going to be making 2 cords, and if you are left-handed, your cord will look the same, just opposite. So your cord will look like this. So it'll be as if I flipped the right one over, but yours will have a smooth look on the front. Okay? So don't worry if you're left-handed, you can still make this project. I have a special diagram just for left-handers that you can download at CelticKnotCrochet.com. So we're going to cut about 5 or 6 inches because we want to have some long yarn tails to help us join everything together later. And now I'm going to put an edging on the cord. And I highly recommend the edging because it really helps the design to pop. And we're going to use a slip stitch. And there are just a couple little things that I do to make it look its best. So you put your slip knot on your hook of your contrasting color. And this is the beginning of our cord. Remember, the short little end was the beginning. So I'm going to pick that up. I'll zoom in again here for you. And we're going to work in the back loop only. So normally when working in a row, we put our hook under both loops. But I'm just going to work in that back loop right here. Okay? So I put my hook into that back loop, yarn over, pull through the loop, and through the loop on my hook. And that's a slip stitch. And I'm going to work in each stitch across but I have something special to do on this side. So when I get to that chain 2 space, here it is. There's the first chain and the second chain. I'm going to take out the stitch marker and I'm going to put a slip stitch in the first chain. Then I'm going to add a chain 1, and then I'm going to put a slip stitch in the next chain. And that just helps reinforce the nice point. And now I'm going to do slip stitches across until I get to the next chain 2 space, which is marked by my stitch marker. Okay, here I am at my next stitch marker, my next chain 2 space. I'm going to slip stitch in that first chain, chain 1, and then slip stitch in the next chain. And now I'm going to continue to the end of the cord, but I'm not going to fasten off because I want to do the other side of the cord. So keep going with your slip stitches in that back loop only. Okay, now that I'm here at the end of the cord, I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to slip stitch just right here in the side of that last stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1 again, and now I'm in position to do the slip stitch across this side. And I'll show you there's just one thing that we do differently when we get to the inside stitch. See this little stitch here? See it right there? Inside the point. We're going to skip that stitch. If we work a slip stitch in there, it kind of just makes it a little too bulky. So we're just going to skip that one, and we're going to skip the one inside the other point right here. So I hold my row so I can see from the top down, and I insert my hook into that back loop. And here I am. There's the point. Here's that little stitch right at the inside, and I'm just going to skip it and slip stitch in the next stitch and continue working across. And I'm coming up on the stitch inside the next point, which is this one right here. So I have one more to do here. And then I'm going to skip that one and go on the next one. And now I've completed my slip stitch edging. So I cut about 6 inches out and pull through, and let's take a look at what our cord looks like now. So your cord should be about 10 inches long. And there you go. I know it looks kind of black on the video, but this is a dark green and a bright green. So you're going to make 2 cords like this, and then we'll move on to weaving this simple Celtic knot. So now we're ready to weave the Celtic knot. You'll want to print out the diagram as you found it in the pattern. And again, there's a version for left-handers. I highly recommend printing it out in color, but if you can't, print it out black and white, but then maybe color in one of the colors to match what I have here. You'll need a piece of cork board about 6 inches by 6 inches. Mine is 12 by 12, but you see it's a quarter inch thick with a 1/2 inch of styrofoam underneath just to protect my work surface. You don't have to have that. And then you'll want a few sewing pins. You'll want your yarn needle again, and then you need your 2 cords that you made. Now, to help you understand how this knot is woven, I made my cords in 2 different colors. But I think it looks best if you have them in the same color, because then it just gives more interest and you don't know where it starts and it ends. But you decide. Now, before we start weaving, I always like to take my finger and take a look at the knot, examine what's there, so you understand and your brain can kind of sort of get used to the idea of where you're going to be placing your cords. So we're going to start here where there's the green circle, and we're going to place our first cord down on this path. Then after we do that, we're going to place the second cord at this red asterisk and follow the arrows and weave the cord in and around the green one. And that's it. It's pretty easy. I purposely picked a simple knot so as many people as possible could make this project. I also want to point out that there are different letters here around the knot. So this is for when we start putting crochet stitches into the sides of the knot, and in the directions you'll see you'll start here at C and you'll work your way around. Again, you'll be going the opposite direction if you're left-handed, but all the letters will line up for you because you just have the opposite on your diagram, but it will all match the pattern. And those are there to help you so you know you're on track and you know where you are. So the first thing we need to do before we can weave is we're going to sew the ends of one of your cords together. So it's going to go on this green path, so I made mine green. You can turn it over to the wrong side, and I'm going to use one of the yarn tails and my yarn needle. And I'm just going to whip stitch the cord ends together. I'll show you a little bit closer here. This is not going to show, so it doesn't matter which color you use. It's going to be hidden in the knot. So you see my two ends, and I'm just going to pick up a loop on one side of the end and a loop on the other side. And that joins them together. I might want to use those other yarn tails later, so I'm going to leave them there. Just like that. And if you want, you can tie them in a knot with the other yarn tail that's on the other side. Like so. Double knot. So now our cord is making this shape and it's attached. So we're going to place it down over the green path. And I'm going to use the pins at point A and at point B, like so. And you see, you just lay it down on top and it'll look like this. Use as many pins as you want. They're there to help you, to give you like an extra hand. And there you go. That's what you want to do with the first cord. Now we're going to start to weave. So I'm going to take the beginning of the cord, which is the short end. The long end here is the end. And I'm going to find that red asterisk right there. And I'm going to place the end of the cord at that red asterisk. And I like putting the yarn tails underneath so they're not in my way. Okay, so I'm lining this up with the diagram underneath. Now I peek at the diagram and I see that I need to go over right here, and then I'm going to go under. So I lay the cord over like so. I think I'll put another pin here at the beginning. And then I'm going to go under this one. Right like this. And I want to make sure that if it flips like that, that I turn it so the right side's facing up. Okay, So far I have that. You can move them around. Now I look at the orange path and it comes down over here. And I'm going to go over right here where we join the other cord. Remember, I don't want it to show. I can take out that pin and re-put it in. Now I'm going to peek over here and I'm going to go under so you can see the orange is going to go under the green and then back over the green. So go under the green, and then over the green right here. And now the trickiest part. We're going to go under the green right here. See, we can see it goes under, but then we have to go back over, and then we'll meet up with where we started as an under. So over, under, over, under. So over, under, and now we're going to go back this way, over this one, and then right under there where we began. Now I want to pull this yarn tail out so it's not in the way, and it's on that back side so I can use it to sew things together. And there we go. And then I can take the pins out and kind of play with the positioning. And I like to then pin across like that where the beginning is so that doesn't pop out on me. Now there is an optional step you can do here, is you can wet block your cords, or you can wet block at this stage and let it dry overnight, which means you just wet the entire thing with cool water, press out the excess water, and then lay it out. Make sure you have all the cords the way you like them. Lay it out on a dry towel. You can pin it in place if you like, and let it dry overnight, and that'll just help the fibers relax. And if your tension is tight and you're having a hard time with all the twists and turns of the knot, it would just help them to fit in together better. But you don't have to do that, especially since this is going to be taken into the tub in the shower. It'll get wet plenty and relax as someone uses it. So now that we're finished with weaving the knot, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to use the yarn tails on the orange to sew the yarn, the cord ends together. So let's see, I'll use this one. It's nice and long. Again, this is not showing because it's underneath the green one. And I'll do just what I did before. Whip stitch those cord ends together. Can you see it okay? Like that. Nice and snug. And again, I can tie those cord ends, yarn tails in a double knot. And my knot is all put together. Now what I noticed just about the design of this knot is that it has a few gaps here. So what I think is the best thing to do is at this stage, real quick, you're going to have to weave these yarn tails in anyway. So why not, while you weave them in, we're going to sew up this side here, this opening, and this opening right here. So I'll show you again. This opening right here and this opening right here, we're going to sew them together. So I just pick up a loop from that cord and a loop on the back of that cord, And I'm using contrasting color on purpose, but normally I would want to use a matching color so it doesn't show. But I'm doing this so you can see. And that'll just snug up the knot and prevent the soap bar from falling through. And you have to weave your ends in anyway, so we might as well get a job done while we're weaving them in. And see how that, now it's together. I can't. This side I can open up, this side I can't. And that's it. So you'll want to do that on both sides and weave all the rest of your ends in the same way, just finding loops on the back and go one way maybe for an inch and then back the other way for an inch and then cut them off, and you'll be ready to start the rest of the soap sack. I have another tip that I was thinking of, that if you want to make a lot of these and you're part of a group, you can divide the steps of this project for different people in your group to work on. So you could have a couple people that just do the cords and they crank those out. Then you have a couple people who are really good with puzzles that are talented at making the Celtic knot. They use the diagram and they have the cords already made and they do the weaving. And then you could have people who sew everything together, and then you could have another group of people in your group that add the stitches around for the last step. So just a little tip for you to help the project go quickly if you have the nice benefit of working with other crocheters for charity. So let me show you really quickly how to do the applique version of the Celtic Soap Sack. My original design of this Celtic Soap Sack was to work around the Celtic knot with different heights of stitches, so you have a nice solid join between the knot and then this square motif here, and then you turn it into the sack. And that is what will follow these directions right here. But I thought some people might not want to do that. It might be a little too difficult. So here is a simpler version I came up with. You'll still make the cords, you'll still make the knot as you've seen in this video, but then you'll just crochet a square. So you'll want to chain 23, then you'll want to work a half double crochet in the third chain from your hook and each chain across. And you'll have 21 half double crochets. Then you chain 2, turn, and work a half double crochet in each stitch across. And you continue that for a total of 21 rows, which gives you this rectangle, I guess, not really a square. And then when it's flat, this is the easiest way to applique the knot. So before I turn it into a sack, I left it flat, but to find where I would like it, I fold it in like so. So if you fold the sides in and have them meet up and then turn it over, you can see that that's how your soap sack will look. So you can place your knot here. And what I did is I took my knot motif and I pinned it in place, opened this back up, and then I used my yarn needle and matching thread. So I used thread that matched the center of the cord. But for right now, I'm going to show you what it looks like with a contrasting color, so white. But let me show you how I sewed this on. I don't want my stitching to show, so I go up through here right next to the main color, in between the edging and the main color of the cord. And I go down and up along the edge like so. And if you do, you can go back down and then come back up over here and then go back down. This is a very common embroidery stitch. And you can continue like this all the way around the edge, and you can even do this along in the middle to secure it. And that will attach the knot nicely to your rectangle. So once you have your knot sewn on, you'll want to pick up your working loop. As you could see, I didn't fasten off. And then I have less ends to weave in. And I'm going to fold the soap sack so right sides are facing. And I'm going to line up the two edges, and I chained one there at the end, and I'm going to work through both layers and slip stitch across, making sure that I catch those loops on the layer closest to me and the layer farthest away. This will give me a nice quick seam, and I'll show you where we'll put it. Here I've joined both sides together, and I'm going to turn the right sides out, and I want this seam to be in the center back of my project. So if I turn it over, I can adjust it so I have even amount on either side here. And then I'm going to fasten off here. Like so. So I'm going to single crochet the bottom edge together. Gives a nice clean edge. So I put my slip knot on my hook, and I put my hook right here into the corner, and I'm going to do a slip knot, and I'm going to chain one. And then I'm going to make sure I pass through both layers and work single crochet across the bottom like so. You can see how that gives a nice clean edge. You just want to make sure that you pass through both thicknesses, the top and the bottom. And it closes up the tube of crochet. I've gone across with my single crochet, and I'm going to slip stitch just right here to the side of that last stitch. Just helps it have a nice edge. And I fasten off, pull through, and I'm going to use my yarn needle to weave those ends in. For the simpler version, we'll just do a quick edging along the top here like we do for the other version of this soap sack. So I go back to my center seam here, put my slip knot on my hook, and I join with a slip stitch, chain one, and then I'm going to work single crochet evenly spaced. Doesn't matter how many you do, you just don't want them bunching up. I've gone all the way around with single crochet, and I've met up with the beginning of the round, but I'm not going to join, and I'm going to chain 15, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to skip the first chain and work in that back bar of the chain and do a slip stitch in each chain across. This just makes my little chain here a little bit thicker, a little bit sturdier. So I've done my slip stitch in each one, and then I'm going to fasten off with a good size yarn tail, 8 to 10 inches. Yarn over, knot that off. And now I'm going to use my yarn needle with this yarn tail. And you could see how this little length is curling this way. So I want to twist it so the curl goes back the other direction. And I'm going to join the end of this little length with the beginning, just using the yarn tail and my needle. And this is going to create a nice hanging loop. And then while I'm here, I'm going to join everything with the beginning of the round, so there isn't a gap here. And because it's the same color, you're not going to see any of the stitching. And I'll keep going till it's nice and secure, and then I weave my ends in. And that's what it'll look like on the front. So that's how you make the applique version of the Celtic Soap Sack. Let's go on and work on the other version, the embedded version of this Celtic Soap Sack. Now we're ready to build around the knot, and we're going to be working into the stitches behind the cord. This takes a little practice, but you'll see it's not that difficult. So to review, now we're going to be working along the edge of the knot, and we're going to start at C, and we're going to put some stitches in here and then work some extra stitches here at the corner, then stitches across to E, and C, E, F, G, H, and J are all valleys because that's where there's a dip in the cords and it's lower than the other edges. So I'm calling all of these valleys, and then we'll work to the next corner. So B, D, A, and I are all corners. So I'm choosing the ivory color and putting my slip knot on my hook. And if I hold my knot up next to the diagram, C would be right here. Okay, so C is in the valley where these two cords overlap. And I'm going to work behind this slip stitch edging. So normally if I were to work on top of crochet, I'd go in this back loop maybe, or under both loops. But I don't want to do that because that'll ruin the look of the knot. So I'm going to look behind, and there's a loop here and a loop here, and I'm going to put my hook through like that, and then I'm going to continue working in that loop. It's actually a different color, which makes it easier to find. So these back loops here, anything that is below that slip stitch edging, so you keep this pretty braided look intact. And I'm going to join with a half double crochet, so that you yarn over first, then I'm going to put my hook into those loops, and then yarn over, pull through the stitch. I have 3 loops on my hook. You have to kind of pull that knot down so you can see it, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 like so. So I'm going to work another half double crochet and 3 single crochets before I get to the corner. So I'm gonna try to squeeze them in as best I can. So I'll probably put another half double in that same stitch that I was just in, and then a single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. And you'll see this repeats. 1, 2, 3, and then here's my corner. So I'm going to slide my hook into the back of the corner, and I'm going to do a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet. And before I go further, I'm going to mark that chain 1 space right here with my stitch marker so it's easy to find. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do 3 single crochets and a half double. And if you're having a hard time finding the loops or trying to put your hook through the loops, you can do a little prep work with the needle and kind of pull up the loops just a little bit, and that can make it easier. So 1 single crochet, another one in the next, another one in the next, and then we want to do a half double. Okay, so now we've gone from C to D and then D to E, and at E, the next valley, we're going to put another half double crochet. And again, I'm going to find some loops. I try to go through both of the cords because it kind of helps anchor them together. Okay, and that's basically what we're going to do all the way around, especially on these corners. We're going to do a half double, 3 single, then our corner, then 3 single, a half double, and then our valley. So I want to fit in a half double crochet and 3 single crochet. So that's 4 stitches, so I go back from the corner. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know I can start right here at this one. So 1 half double, and then 1 single, another single, and a 3rd single. And now I'm at my next corner. So I'm going to do a single crochet, single crochet, chain 1, and then single crochet in that same stitch. Okay, now 1, 2, 3 half doubles, 3 singles, sorry, 1, 2, 3 singles, and then a half double. So I can see that the lighter green right here. So 1, 2, 3 singles, and then 1 half double. Okay, do you see how there's a pattern forming? So in all of the valleys you put a half double, and then around the corner you have half double, 3 single, corner, 3 single, half double. So here we have 3 single, half double, 3 single, corner, 3 single, half double. So now our next valley is right here. Now what I want to be careful of is how many stitches I need to work in across this section. So I'm going to need 5 stitches along this part of the cord, and then I have a valley here and a valley here. So if I cover them up, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I don't need to go that far. I'm going to put my valley right here. With a half double, and now I'm going to do another half double, and then 3 single, and then another half double, so see how I did a half double down in the valley, then half double, 1, 2, 3 single, half double again, and now I'm at my next valley. So I'll put that in right here, and I'll try to go through the other cord too. There we go. And now I'm going to do the same thing that I did before. So we went around 1, 2 corners and then along the side. So now I'm just going to repeat that. 1, 2 corners and then down the side, and I'll join with a slip stitch. Alright, I've gone all the way around, and then I put a slip stitch into that first half double crochet of the round. And there we go. Our first round to even out and make it a rectangle. Okay, for round 2 of the border around the knot is we're just going to work a half double crochet in each stitch around. So I'm going to chain 2, which counts as my first half double crochet, and I'm going to work through both loops as normal. And when I get to my chain 1 spaces, so I'll keep on going till I get to that stitch with. So I put my hook in to the chain 1 space and do a half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet in that same space. And that just helps us go around the corner. And then I continue with the half double crochet around, except at the chain 1 spaces marked by the stitch markers on the corner. So easy peasy. I've gone all the way around with the half double crochets and doing the half double, chain 1, half double in the corners. Here's my starting chain 2, and I just put my hook into that, the top of that, and do a slip stitch, and then cut about 6 to 8 inches off, make a knot, and there we have the Celtic Knot motif with a nice simple crochet stitch frame. So now we're going to do the body of the bag, which goes very quickly. So I'm going to begin with the right side facing, and I'm going to put the slip knot on my hook, and I want to begin in the first half double crochet of one of the long sides. So I don't want to work in that chain 1, I want to work in the half double crochet. And I'm going to put a slip stitch into that, and I'm going to work into some special loops. Again, this is optional, you don't have to do this, but I like how it looks on the front. So I'm going to put my hook into the back loop, but in half double crochet you also have this diagonal bar. See how here are our top 2 loops, and if I look on the back, right below those top 2 loops, there's this diagonal back bar. So I'm going to put my hook through the back loop and through the back bar like this, and it's going to create this nice frame on the front, and it's also going to help the bag work its way around. So I'm going to work my slip stitch going through the back loop and the back bar, slip stitch, I chain 2, and the chain 2 does not count as my first half double. I'll just go right into that first stitch and continue working down by putting my hook in the back loop and that back bar. And I want to have 20 stitches along here. See, and by going down in that back loop, I have this nice line here. And I continue going down until I meet up with the last stitch. So here's my chain one space right there. So I have two more, one, and then right there in that chain one space. And you should have 20 stitches across. And now I'm going to repeat several rows of the half double crochet. So I'm going to chain two. Now I'm just going to work under both loops as normal, and I'm going to work so there are a total of 10 rows of half double crochet. So 9 more rows for the back part of the bag. So just continue to work half double crochet back and forth. Here I've completed the 11 rows that are needed to work the back part of the soap sack from the Celtic Knot motif. So now I'm going to join this side to this side by folding the soap sack in on itself with the right sides facing. Going to chain one and turn, and now I'm going to work across through both of these layers. But what I want to do is, since I have this nice line here because I worked in the back loop, I'm going to do that as I join. So I'll show you. And I'll zoom it in a little bit so it's easier to see the stitches. So I'm going to work through both loops of the layer closest to me, but then when I go to work through the layer with the Celtic Knot, I'm not going to work in this front loop. I'm going to work in the back loop and the back bar, like that. And then I'm just going to yarn over, pull through everything for a slip stitch. So again, I'm going to go through both loops on the layer closest to me, and then only through the back loop, and then that back bar just under the back loop that's on the back of a half double crochet. Again, this is optional. You can just go through both loops if you want, but I like that design element of framing the knot, and I feel like going in the back bar helps shape the soap sack so it curves around the best. I've completed joining my seam, and here you can see the back side of the Celtic Knot motif. And now I'm going to turn it so the right sides are facing out. And then without fastening off, I wanted to keep my working loop open. Let me tuck in these yarn tails for now. And I'm going to single crochet across through both layers here to seal up the bottom of the soap sack. So I want to make sure I go through both layers. So I'm going to chain one, and I want to make sure that the Celtic Knot is facing me because this is the front or the right side. So I put my hook through both layers, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two. And this will give a nice edge along the bottom. I love using single crochet to join things, especially when it's going to show like this, and it'll give a nice finishing edge. I've completed single crocheting the bottom opening together, and I'm going to fasten off. I can even do a slip stitch here just next to everything, and that'll help with a neater edge right there, and I'll weave this end in later. So now the last step is to create this top edging. So we just have 3 more rounds. Again, this is optional. You can just do the same stitch for a few lengths, but I wanted to include this tie part here so you could cinch up your soap sack and prevent the soap from falling out. So that's really easy to do. We're going to start at the center back. That way our seam or our starting point won't show. And we're going to be working in the round. So I'll just eyeball the center here, put my hook in, yarn over, pull through everything. So I joined with a slip stitch. I'm going to chain 2, and then I'm going to work half double crochets around. It really doesn't matter how many you have. You just want to make sure that they're nice and evenly spaced. So I try to go in more than one loop if I can along the edge, because these are the edge of the rows. So like right here, I'm going through the center of that stitch on the edge, and just helps it from getting too gappy here. Now when I get to the front, again, this is optional, but because I like this framed line here along both sides, I'm going to make sure that there's a framed line here at the top. So if you want, you can do the back loop and back bar thing again along the top of the knot section. But again, this is totally optional, but it creates that pretty line. See, there's that pretty line. And I'll continue working around, placing the half double crochets evenly until I come back to where I started. Gone across the front and created that nice line, and now I just finish by working the half double crochets across the rest of the round. Here I am at the end of the round, and I'm going to put a slip stitch in the top of that starting chain 2, and now I'm ready for my second round of the top edging. I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to skip a stitch and put a half double crochet in the next stitch. Then I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, half double in the next stitch. And this just creates those spaces so I can thread the tie through the top. So all you're doing is chain 1, skip 1, half double in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, half double in the next. Here I am near the end, and if it doesn't work out, if you don't have the perfect number of stitches, it's not that big of a deal. I'm skipping 1 here. I'm going to still chain 1 and then attach with a slip stitch to the second chain of that starting chain 3. And there we go. So yeah, I don't have a skip stitch here, but it'll still work out. And now our last round, we're going to chain 1 and we're going to put a single crochet in each stitch around. So we'll do the first stitch here, and then 1 here in the chain 1 space, and then a single crochet in the next half double. And we'll do that around. Single crochet in the chain 1, single crochet in the half double, and that'll give a nice finished edge to the top of our soap sack. I've gone all the way around with my single crochet, and now I'm going to chain 15, and this is going to be my hanging loop. Again, this is optional, and I'm going to slip stitch in the second chain and in each chain across, working in that back bar just to give the chain a little more oomph. Makes it a little thicker. We don't want that breaking, because again, this will be getting wet. So we want it nice and thick and strong, but not too thick. Now that I've finished my little length of slip stitches, I'm going to cut a nice long tail, yarn over, pull through, and I'm going to use my yarn needle to sew this down like so. I'm going to sew the end right to here, and then from the front I have this nice hanging loop. So I'll show you how to sew this on. It's really easy and quick. I just turned, see how it was going that way? I just twisted it so the natural curve goes towards the center, and I'll just use the yarn needle and the yarn tail and sew together the end of the round and the end of the hanging loop. And I'll go back and forth like that a couple times. So it's nice and secure. And another nice technique you can do is, since I started right around here, I have this other yarn tail from the beginning, and I can work this yarn tail, weave it through down to that first yarn tail I had, and I can make a double knot with that other yarn tail. Tie it once, tie it again, and now I can weave in these two ends, but I know even if the little ends come out, my project's not going to come undone, and that hanging loop is going to be nice and secure. So go one way, go a different direction, then go back, and I'll do that for all of the ends. So now we just have one more step, and that's to make the tie. So what I did was chain 45. You could chain whatever you want. And what I like to do at the end of the chains is wrap an overhand knot so it knots the end of the chain like that, nice and tight. And then you can put another knot of just the yarn tail right up next to that at the end. And then I cut so there's about a ½ inch left. So can you see that? So I'll show you again on this side. So whenever I use a chain to tie something as a tie closure, I like to make a knot at the bottom of the chain with the chain. So you could see here how the chain is the knot. Gives a nice little nugget there. And then I'll take the yarn tail and make another overhand knot just below that big knot. Make it nice and tight so they kind of blend together, and then cut about a ½ inch off. And now I have this nice chain tie, and then I start at the beginning, and I want to make sure that when it ends, this side ends, it's coming out towards me. And then I just weave over, under, around the top, and I work my way all the way around, and there we go. So then I could just pull it tight and tie a little bow or a little knot to keep my soap in there. We have a nice hanging loop. Now the last step in finishing our soap sack is that we want to sew up these gaps. See how there are these gaps in the middle? And it's just the design of the Celtic knot. And we don't want soap going through there or this to get all kind of wonky. So what I decided is that the best time to do this is when the whole sack is mostly finished. You're going to want to turn it insides out. And as you can see, I still have all my yarn tails still here from the knot because I want to use these as I weave them in. I'm going to close up this gap right here. So I'll just use the matching darker green and my yarn needle. And I'll zoom in a little here because it's a little dark. So now I'm going to pick up a loop on one side of the cord and then a loop on the other cord and whip it across. And by pulling that closed, it'll close up that gap and help secure the knot so it stays in place as it gets used, as it gets washed, like so. And I'll do that on both sides over here as well. And I can sew down some of these spots. I could sew this cord to this cord. As I'm weaving in all these ends, I could just secure the knot a little bit while I weave in the ends. And then I would turn it right side out, and you can see how where I just sewed it up, right here, it's all this gap on this side I didn't sew yet, but here it's all nice and sewn up now. So I hope you enjoyed making this project. I hope you enjoy donating some Celtic soap sacks to your local community, and maybe you can even make these for gifts for those in your life who love all things Irish. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to click to subscribe, and happy crocheting!